A portion of this video is sponsored by Roboform Password Manager.
Hello everybody and welcome to a video I am extremely excited about as the day has finally come to put together a proper racing simulator setup. This one is honestly going to be epic. We've got some of the very best PC gaming components that you can actually buy right now, and we're going to be loading it into this brand new chassis, the Lee & 011 Air Mini. I wish the name was Mini. I'm so excited. Let's build this thing. To start things off, we have a brand stinking new motherboard. I say brand stinking new, I don't actually think that it smells. This is the Gigabyte X570S Aero G, and that S is actually really significant because there's a whole range of new motherboards available that have almost stealth launched. They are very similar, they're super high-end X570 motherboards, but unlike the X570 of old, you no longer have chipset fans. We're very much going for a black and white theme with this whole rig, which is why this motherboard actually caught my eye because you've got a load of white paneling. And then of course, the main benefit of X570 in the first place, which is that the chipset supports PCI Generation 4, so if you're going to use multiple Gen 4 devices, then this is going to allow you to take full advantage of them. The processor that we're using is pretty much the most sensible high-end option. This is a 12-core Ryzen 9 5900X. This features top-end single-core performance, so it's going to be brilliant for gaming, but of course, because this has 12 cores, this is going to be useful in a whole range of different applications. Pretty much anything that's going to use a load of threads is going to benefit from all of these extra cores. Let's tuck that in and get it ready for bed. Good night, my sweet prince. You know I love to make jokes on this channel, but that just felt a bit too far for me. But if you're into that sort of thing, then why not get subscribed and see me completely lose the plot? There's only so much time you can spend in one room before you go crazy. When it comes to the memory for this build, I honestly felt like I didn't have a choice because clearly the D50 RGB in white from XPG is going to be the perfect pairing for this motherboard. Here we're using 4 sticks of 8 for a total of 32, and it will be running at 3600 MHz. If you do think that you're going to want to upgrade to 64 at any point though, I would highly recommend that you do actually buy 2 sticks rather than 4. Because if you did want to upgrade this right now, then all of those 8 gig DIMMs are going to need to be replaced by 16 gigabyte modules, and that's going to cost you a lot of money. And yes, you could sell these, but that's still just unnecessary faff, right? As for the SSD, we're going to use something that I wouldn't recommend. Wait, what? This is the Samsung 980 Pro, and this is a ridiculously fast SSD. It is quite expensive. The reason I say I wouldn't recommend this exact one is because Samsung provided me with a 500 gigabyte one. And to be honest with you, surely if you're going to spend this amount of money on an SSD, most of us would be better off with a slower one with more capacity. Is this a double-sided heatsink? Yes, it is! There you go, look, you've got thermal pads on both sides, so if you do want to use a double-sided SSD that gets ridiculously fast and hot, you don't need an external heatsink to use it. Just make sure you take the peel off, otherwise the only one that's going to be laughing is heat. Let's drop this bad boy in then, screw that back down. Our final component before we do actually put this inside the case, it's time for our CPU cooler, and I've been waiting to use this for ages, but I don't really do too many white builds. This is Fantech's Glacier 1 240 miles per hour. Don't think it actually goes that fast. You should definitely take note of this if you are going for a white themed build, because pretty much everything of this is actually white. Black cables? What if every part of my motherboard is white? So let's remove the default mounting hardware. Let's get our replacement screws that do say AM4 in it. And then now comes the bit that I've been looking forward to all week. Not just the racing wheel, but this case, because this is brand new from Lee & Lee. This is the 011 Air Mini. The Air stands for mesh because pretty much all of this case does use mesh, so you're going to get brilliant airflow, and you can take this apart and use it in different ways. The top and front just pull off quite easily, which then leaves us with this frame that is actually pretty modular, so you can use this in a whole bunch of different ways. So you can do like a traditional build like we're doing today, where you put a full-size motherboard in this and then you use all of the PCIe slots. But if you do want to go for something not necessarily higher end, but maybe like a custom loop, or you want to put a smaller motherboard in here, then you can actually remove this back panel and then use it with only 5 slots for a mini ITX or a micro ATX motherboard, and then that does give you a little bit more clearance at the top if you want to use thicker radiators, as well as down here at the bottom. The other really cool thing about this case is that you've got mesh ventilation on the other side, and you can put SSDs here or remove these 2 different plates and then put fans or a radiator here, so you could have essentially airflow at the bottom, top, front and the side.
Cybersecurity is no joke, and if you're still struggling to remember your passwords, or worse still, you're actually writing them down, then you're in for a lot of trouble. But don't worry, as the solution is simple. Roboform. Roboform is the quick and easy way to secure up your digital footprint. You'll never forget a password again. You simply make one strong, unique master password, and then let Roboform create a super secure password for every new site that you visit. Roboform will then automatically log you into sites in just a single click, and it can even save your credit cards, all with complete peace of mind that everything is encrypted in a virtual vault. The great thing about Roboform though is that it works across all of your devices. I've personally been phished before, and I can tell you from experience that it is not a very nice one at all, and knowing that someone has access to all of your accounts is very scary, and that was the day that I personally switched to a password manager. Roboform has a special deal for my viewers where you can get 30% off your Roboform Everywhere subscription by using my link. That's just $16 a year. Go to roboform.com/centric. Sign up today with that link down below.
The first thing that we're going to do is actually remove these front fans, because they're probably fine, but they're not the most attractive things in the world. There isn't any RGB lighting. The fans that we are going to be upgrading to are these brand new fans from Lee. These are also Unifans, but these are the AL120s. You've now got RGB in both the fan and the frame, but on top of that, they can also run a little bit quieter, around about 28 decibels, and they're also capable of pushing more air. The absolute best things about these though, by far, is the way that they do actually attach together. You just click them like that, and then you can mount them on the radiator, and then you've saved yourself so much time and effort. Look how neat this is. RGB cables are the worst. Line up the holes. Screw our fans in, then you'd be left with one modular piece that you can just grab and slide in. Now we can grab our case, and usually you would lay this down flat, but in order to actually show you what I'm doing, I will grab the motherboard. We're just going to line this up with the holes. We then proceed to screw it into place. I will swap out this back fan while I'm still here. Newsflash, I have actually found out something I don't like about this case. I know. And that's that this hard drive cage right here at the back can't actually be removed because for some reason it is riveted in rather than using thumb screws. Screw the fans into the all-in-one radiator. Realize that you then need to take the fans out the front again because it doesn't fit. And then finally grab your all-in-one cooler and then tuck this into place. While it is definitely bearable, it is getting quite tight in there. So I'm going to plug my RTX power connection in now. We'll talk about these cables in a second, but they are custom. Check if there's anything else that will need to be plugged in. There's a few fans and things, but they're so small I think it will be okay. So we can proceed to actually fix this radiator into place. We can now mount the pump head, which means getting the AMD bracket, taking off this little protective cover and the Intel one, lining up the pump head, screw it in with the thumb screws, give it a bit of the good old screwdriver, and then you can grab this RGB pump head, and then you should just lay it on top, but maybe I'm just being silly, I can't quite work it out. Ultimately, the problem here is the combination of that AMD bracket with us using the tubes facing downwards, because clearly it doesn't actually touch the magnet as it should. If you had this over to the left or to the right, it would be fine. So we're going to have to swap things over, but it's just a bit of an oversight. At least the text will be facing the right way this time. There you go. Now comes the most fun bit of any build, which is to actually plug in all of these cables and sort of tidy them as you go. We've got fan headers, we've got RGB, there's all the usual case malarkey as well, like your USB 3, your Type-C and your HD audio. Don't forget to use the Lee & fan controller though, that does come in the box. Otherwise you're going to run into quite a few problems. Because remember, you're controlling blocks of fans rather than just one on its own. Oh, so many cables. Of course, the absolutely awesome thing about this case though is that we can actually mount some fans down here at the bottom. Now this is quite interesting because technically with these uni fans you can actually use 3 fans down the bottom, however there isn't enough ventilation for them all to actually get fresh air. But for YOLO, I'm going to fit all 3 just because we can. We will plug in our power supply next, and this is one of my old trusty ones. This is the RM850i, but there is a newer, slightly differently named version of this. But as you can clearly see, we're using custom cables here. So this is actually a mixture of a Corsair custom kit and then one that I bought myself from Cablemod. This is a 12 pin and this is going to go direct into the graphics card rather than using that horrible adapter. Plug in our SATA connection, then just bung this at the back. That's the beauty of cases like this, because you can just park everything completely out of sight where it's not in the way and it doesn't matter to anybody. Just the cable management police. Don't be the cable management police. But then last, but certainly not least, we have the graphics card, the RTX 3080 Ti. Normally I'd say that the elephant in the room is that this is a very expensive graphics card, but we do actually have two elephants today because the other one is availability. This is a very difficult thing to get hold of. But assuming both of those aren't really an issue for you, then you're going to be treated to pretty much the best gaming graphics card that you can buy right now. Grab our RTX 3080 Ti, and then give it a good push until it clicks. Grab our 12-pin cable and plug this in. Put all of the panels back together. And then, okay, that's quite heavy, but check this out. This has got to be one of the best looking systems I've ever put together. And I know what some people are going to say, it's not perfectly themed, the white fans and the black. Maybe you don't like those. It's not always easy to do a white themed PC inside a black case. And I think we pulled it off quite well here. And I've quite literally done about 10 seconds of cable management. And you can see that that side panel is going to go back on without any issue at all. Let's grab our benchmarking monitor just to make sure this does turn on properly. If it doesn't, I'll be very sad. I'm feeling quite nervous about this one. Please work, please work. Whoa, look at those fans. Okay, the back one's not working, but I can fix that. The pump fans aren't working though. I may have forgot to plug them in. CPU temp 87 degrees. I forgot to plug it in. I think I need to use this case myself. As you guys almost certainly know at this point, I build a lot of gaming PCs, but it's really quite difficult to get something that looks good, is elegant, but also has a lot of lighting control, but then also get something that has great airflow, performance, and is silent. But I honestly think that we've found it. But as you can probably tell, this isn't a racing setup. 4K monitors are all well and good, but we're after something a little bit bigger. It is, of course, no other than the brand new Samsung Odyssey G9 Neo. And as you can see, this thing is absolutely gigantic. In fact, it is 49 inches across. We've got HDR 2000 on this thing. It's mini LED and it's 240 Hertz. It was about a week ago that I did review this on the channel, and my underlying impressions were that if you're going to use this for certain games like racing, then it's pretty much the best thing you can buy. But if you want to play like FPS regularly, then maybe not. Of course, I haven't actually introduced the mouse and keyboard that we're going to be using with this, so I can't actually change that resolution. And we'll start with the keyboard, and we're going to go for all of my favorite peripherals at the moment. This is the Logitech G923, and as you can tell from the fact that it's a little bit greasy, a little bit covered in dust, I have been using this every day for coming up for a year actually. Logitech actually originally supplied that for a sponsored video, but the whole thing was just so good I've been using it ever since. And the same goes for this mouse. This is the Logitech G Pro Superlight. It's got ridiculous fluidity, but the response time of this thing means that you would never actually know that you're using this wirelessly. This is the brand new Corsair RGB mouse mat, and it's pretty plain and in some ways boring, but as soon as you plug it in to some power, which is done over USB Type-C, the whole thing lights up. But now it's time to set up the wheel. Now, true story, I've never actually owned any sort of wheel before. I think I've used a couple in my life, so going over to a friend's house. This one was provided by Logitech. This is their G923. You can see there are definitely a lot of buttons and dials. You can get this in a PlayStation 4 and an Xbox version. This is the Xbox One, which is why we have all of the Xbox buttons. But obviously wheel support will depend on the game itself. And if it's a big game, then it will probably support it. But of course, that is only half the story. You're going to need some pedals to actually be able to control the acceleration, the braking, and the clutch. You can actually get an add-on to this as well. So if you do want to do manual clutch control, you can do that. If you want to drive stick, I think that's what you Americans say. I'm not gonna lie, it does not work the best without clumping it to the desk. It definitely has taken a little bit of getting used to, but once you're in the cockpit view, this is just so much more fun than playing it with a controller. Like, okay, playing with a controller is fine, you're sort of laid back on the sofa and you're just relaxing. But if you really want to be in the action, there clearly is nothing better than this, and the level of control that you have does actually make driving so much easier. I really wasn't lying when I said I haven't used one of these before. Turns out these are just like protective cover booster type things, and you can quite easily mount this to my desk. I am just incompetent. Go, 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 come on, come on, come on, don't let me down. Don't let me down. This is different. I will give it that. That is not how you drive a car. Oh, I'm so bad. Losing positions once more, but is he gonna get a decent exit. That's better that time. That is better. Probably a little bit too hot on the brakes, but that is okay. We can work with that. We definitely can work with that. Look, there you go. He's making up ground. You can really feel that wheel fighting you, actually, when you do make mistakes. And the second you're in that gravel, look. Oh. He's caused a big pile up. My driver skills aside, what do you make of this setup? You have to admit that if you do give me a little bit of practice, a little bit of time, I think I can get there. But of course, the question goes out to you on this one. What do you make of the setup? What do you make of the PC? What do you like? What would you change? If you do want to check out current pricing on anything featured, then as always, you can find it linked down below with my Amazon affiliate links. But thank you so much for watching. Smash that like button, get subscribed, and I'll see you in the next one. I think it's a rally car, look. I'm just all over the place.